Harp is on the list of sounds that are well suited to be played from a keyboard without the need to move controllers to evoke nuance and dynamics. In fact, the most important aspect of achieving realism with harp is knowing how to write idiomatically for the instrument. So in this short series of tutorials on the harp, I'll be focusing on how to write realistic parts with the side benefit that your parts won't end up being impossible to play by a real harpist in the event that your music is going to be performed by real players. And I'll also be demonstrating how to roll your own harp glissandi and much more. So what we have here is a harp piece which I played in live using samples from the East-West Platinum series, and it includes all the standard harp lexicon of arpeggiated or rolled or strummed chords, plucked chords and single notes, and of course, a glissando. The key to achieving realism using harp samples really does have a lot to do with your playing technique and how well you can roll chords and play with a great deal of nuance, because lots of harp writing is fairly delicate. But even if you don't have the greatest keyboard chops, you can always simulate those things by adjusting note positions and velocities in your MIDI editor. So here I'm going to play in just a block chord. And then in the piano roll, I'm going to offset the beginning of each note to simulate a strummed or arpeggiated chord. But regardless of how you get your notes into your sequencer, the most important thing about writing for harp is writing idiomatically for the instrument. And the basis for that begins with an understanding of how the instrument is constructed, how it's tuned, and how it's played. And to that effect, I'm going to tell you a fascinating and somewhat infuriating fact about how harpists play their instrument. They don't use their pinky fingers. That's right. They just use the thumb and the next three fingers on each hand. And I have to tell you that thinking about this drives me nuts. I mean, you got two perfectly good fingers hanging around doing nothing. So if you were to ask a harpist, hey, would you mind, playing a couple, 2-3 notes with those spare fingers you got there? Their answer would be no. They just don't use them. So when writing for harp, keep in mind the rule of 4 notes maximum per hand per chord, and you'll be well on your way to start writing realistic harp parts. But there's a catch. Those 4 notes max per hand can't just be any old notes you want. And I'll explain what that's all about in the very next tutorial.